And welcome back to Visceral Reactions, your regular stop for irregular amounts of horror. I'm Matthew.
I'm Quinton.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode, where we are discussing the 1990 French film, Baby Blood.
Yes, it is the final week in Spooky Month.
Yes.
We're doing the French film. It's our French film selection, which is the Thursday, whenever day that is.
I guess today's so it'll be the 27th that people will be listening to this, hopefully.
Yeah.
And as a result of everyone's wonderful support, we will also be recording our 2,000 download special on The Devil's Rejects, which you will get to hear on Halloween Day. So thank you.
Finally doing a worthy Halloween film on this probably very lackluster month for some of you people.
Yeah.
The only true scary films we've done is Sinister and The Wolfman.
And even The Wolfman is kind of,
I know.
for some people, pushing it. So this is the first French movie that we're doing.
Yep.
And Quentin, this might be
It's my first French film.
And this is quite a way to be introduced to the wonderful long history
of French cinema.
Directed by Alain Robak, as we said, released in 1990. It was released in the States in 94 under the name of The Evil Within.
Good title for this because it is The Evil Within.
Yeah. And this is Alain Robak's first or second movie, and it is definitely the first movie of its star, Emmanuel Escourou, who plays Yanka, the assistant lion tiger tamer in a circus.
It's so vague what that man's job is.
Yeah.
I know he runs the circus, maybe?
Yeah, he's the big top in the big top.
The ringleader.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the...
But all he does is count a few water bills and smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
And beats people.
Specifically Yanka.
Yeah.
And the way that everything kicks off.
In the most crazy way, I thought I was watching the wrong film because I didn't expect it to open like this.
Yeah. We get all of this National Geographic footage
of volcanoes exploding.
Yeah, and
magma hardening. And
going into the sea, and we hear this voice, of course, in French, saying that it has been here. This organism, this entity, has been here on Earth since the Earth was practically
created,
since it was forming.
Why did I say create? What am I, stupid? Formed.
Basically.
It created itself.
Yeah.
No other planet smashed into it.
Exactly.
No 6 days here.
And it relates to us that all of the other single and multicellular organisms made their way to the primordial pit that was forming somewhere in Africa, but that he did not want to come into existence in that manner. He wanted specifically to be born, and so he waits a couple of billion years.
He's playing the long con.
Yeah, and he, I guess, does make his way somewhere, somehow to Africa.
Inhabiting some form of creature to survive.
And we very quickly find out that this organism is the thing that is inhabited is a leopard.
Yep.
And
we get these POV shots of these people capturing something in the cage, and you're it's breathing heavy, and it's oh.
People are very scared of it.
They found something, and it just turns out to be a leopard. And I'm
yeah,
okay.
Very pretty leopard. And this leopard ends up going from Central Africa to this circus in France, where it is expected to join the big cat show.
Yes.
But it doesn't get to because in the middle of the night, it explodes.
It fucking explodes.
And as everyone
is scrambling to be like, we got to find the animal that did this.
Yeah, because they're like, this wasn't a man. This was an animal. And meanwhile, there's this Cronenberg-esque snake worm penis thing.
Yep.
That it makes...
Remember, French movie.
Exactly. Makes its way into Yanka's trailer, which is like one of the only times that she's not being abused by her ringleader boyfriend kind of thing. And the Cronenberg worm inserts itself inside of her and impregnates her because the following morning she has morning sickness.
Yep.
And over the next 9-ish months, we witness her take this unbelievably incredible journey. I mean, honestly, it's like it's almost like a buddy comedy type of thing.
Yeah, but
a buddy comedy where your buddy is a parasite living inside of you and controlling your movements and telling you to kill men to drink their blood because it's the only way that you can feast. So if that's your kind of buddy comedy, then yes, this is a buddy comedy. Because that's exactly what happens. She runs away from the circus.
Yep.
Which, saying it out loud, is a reminder of how that used to be a thing that people would joke about.
Kids would run to the circus.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna run away. I'm gonna join the circus.
Yeah. And instead, she ends up in this very rundown apartment building.
I don't even think she's paying rent. She's just squatting there.
Yeah, she's squatting. Yeah. And then she just goes through a series of like survival scenarios that result in killing men that she will like just find on the street, sometimes literally on the street.
Yeah.
And all the while, this entity is inside of her and growing and talking to her telepathically from the organism to her, but she has to speak to it
out loud. That's the rules.
Yeah. Now, one of the many parallels, or at least one of the many things that the film is like playing off of or riffing on, is definitely Rosemary's Baby, but this isn't the Antichrist. Like, this thing isn't like hell-bent on anything other than feeding and being born.
Yeah.
For now.
Yes.
And it can control her movement. When it wants to.
Yeah, and always like it's not full body, it's like limited.
Yeah. So early on in the moments where she tries to either kill herself or to stab her stomach and kill the baby, the organism stops it.
Or makes her hurt.
Yeah. It like induces so much pain that she is incapable of moving. She starts coughing up blood. And just not pleasant. So basically, like, the more you try to destroy me, I will destroy you.
Yeah.
Eventually, the entity is finally born.
After like months of hell.
Yeah.
Hasn't been all pleasant. Like, I don't know. The relationship between her and the baby is very wishy-washy because they'll just have like conversations. Yeah.
Well, because the entity is conscious.
Yeah.
And it has been around for a very long time. And so he'll ask her questions of like, do you like that man?
Yeah.
Why do you like that man? Do you think that people are unhappy because they know that they're going to die? Like, they'll have like these very interesting and sporadic, meaningful conversations, And then there are moments where like she just wants to.
And it's the like it'll be the very next scene where she's like, I want to get rid of you.
Yeah.
So it's very. I sometimes I don't know if they did end up like kind of. No, she said that like she has some affection for it.
Yeah.
But she just seems it's just a wishy-washy thing of like having a nice conversation, then I want you out of me, you monster.
And
it's, you know what throughout the film it reminded me of? Venom.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that.
Very much reminded me of
Wow.
Venom and Eddie Brock's relationship in the film. Just like, I'm hungry, Eddie.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, the reason for that is because both this organism and the symbiote are parasites.
Yeah.
Like, that is the nature of a parasitic relationship. Like, something needs you to do something, and it can very easily just take as much as it wants until it gets.
Well, her and the entity, that's parasitic. Eddie and Venom's, I mean, he's a symbiote, so it's symbiotic. He gets like chickens and chocolate, and I don't know, Eddie gets a friend to talk to.
I mean, in theory, yeah, the symbiotes are symbiotic, but I think that would be.
I'm just talking about in the regards and in the span of just the films that have come out in the last few years.
Yeah, because like, okay, you got that.
Because even it's a buddy cop.
Yeah, that is a buddy comedy. So the parasitic relationship between the entity and Yanka is getting at what I believe this movie is all about, and it is looking at motherhood as a parasitic relationship. This is not anything new, especially you have this wave of feminism specifically in Europe, but definitely here as well, in the 1980s, that's looking at being a mother in a much more critical lens. Like, it's not just you shouldn't be a mother because it'll take your ability to like go work or like do what you want. Like, it'll take away your individuality or your freedoms or anything like that. But like, to the extent of being a mother is how a patriarchal society oppresses you. Like, that is the tool that keeps women in their place, because the more women are pregnant, the less things that they can physically do.
Right.
And theoretically, the more they're not in the workspace. I mean, and even just like physically, like, you're not in a condition to do things that most things that you can normally do.
Right.
And so like it takes a lot out of you. Also, I mean, just the fact that like you have a chance of dying while being born, and then while giving birth, and then the assumption that the mother is the one who will be the primary caregiver for this child,
right,
for at least 18 years. So it's like all of these things that make a child in general, like, or at least, in theory, definitely not great to have. But even just like physically, like the amount of wear and tear that a child has on a woman's body.
Because it's like physically and chemically changing it.
Yeah. Like your body is different. Like, you're growing, your hormones are going absolutely bananas. Yep. And your diet's changing. There are things you can't eat because you can't like stomach them anymore. There are things that you shouldn't do anymore because it's
gonna hurt the baby.
Yeah. And then there are things that you want to do that you didn't want to do. Like suddenly you're like, why do I like pickles so much? It's because of this fucking baby. You know, and the movie is doing all of that explicitly. I mean, Yanka, because she is a French woman, enjoys smoking. And the entity is like, what are you doing?
It's going to hurt me.
Yeah. And like forces her, like causes an amount of pain that is so terrible that she has to like put out her cigarette.
Yeah.
She can't consume anything that she wants to because she ends up throwing it back up because it's not what the baby needs.
Right.
We don't see her drinking. We don't see her like
Eating.
Only the thing that will feed the baby, which is the blood of men. You have all of that. You have the fact that like she is extremely exhausted by the end of this. Like she goes from like arguing with the entity of like, when are you going to be born? And then at the end, she's just like, are we done? Like, what are we?
I was hard to grasp on that because it was either like, even that was wishy-washy because there were parts of her that she just wanted this to be over with. Other parts were like, she's like, it's the only kind of companion she's had for 9 months. And the entity's the same way. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave you. But then it'd be like, I want to be born.
But mama, I need to be
Yeah.
born. Yeah.
That just may be chopped down to like the writing not being the best at times.
See, I'm going to counter that, and I'm going to say that with the mother-child relationship, you constantly have that, those like dueling feelings.
Oh, of like, I love you, I hate you type
Yeah,
thing.
right? And not even, it doesn't even have to be hate. I mean, especially from like the child's perspective of you love your mother, but you also want to be your own person.
Right.
You want to be close to her, but not too close to the point where it's like weird. And as a mother, it's like what I would imagine, of course, not being one, it's like you have the experience of being pregnant, which I'm sure is unlike anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm sure it fucking sucks too, physically. I mean, just knowing a lot of the women in my life who have gone through pregnancies, it doesn't sound good. And so, like, you want that thing out of you.
Yeah.
You're like, it's been 9 months. Can we go on with something else now? So I think instead of being wishy-washy, I think it's actually showing a strength of not just the script, but the idea behind it that motherhood is an extremely complex dynamic.
Oh, okay.
And that you have children who you have, like, you're designed to love, but then what if you don't love them all the time? I mean, there are moments where your children are going to piss you off, or they're going to make you mad, or they're going to make you think, like, even for a split second, like, I wish I didn't fucking have you. Like, it's real, I think. And that just makes the relationship between the two, like, even better, because it is changing. Like, they have more meaningful conversations as the film progresses.
Yes.
And I mean, everything from asking her what type of men she's interested in to then wondering, what's it like to be born? She tells him, like, you know that when you're born, that means eventually
You die.
you die. And he accepts that. He's like, I know. I just want to be born. So, like, you have all of these conversations, and interspersed throughout are these incredibly gory, campy, beautiful executions of men that Yanka
Seduces, finds.
Happens to, hitchhikes.
Yeah.
Like, situations that she puts herself in the sense of, like, she has to follow this man
Yeah.
because the child needs to be fed.
Yeah.
or just like she'll be working and then there's some guy who like keeps looking at her.
Yep.
But it all comes down to the same thing of they're going to die and it's going to be brutal and it's going to be awesome.
By the end of the film, she's like very proficient at killing.
She's been covered in blood so
Yeah,
many times.
yeah.
I wish this is one of the terrible things about this film being so hidden.
I know.
Is that I want to know how much fake blood they went through, but I will never know.
No.
Because
That information
it's
doesn't
like
exist anymore.
You would imagine Shamu splashing and the result is a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah.
And it's all blood red.
Every time.
Every kill.
It's like morbidly beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Because it's that bright red.
Yeah.
That just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it's the same blood, like you said, that you find in the Hammer films.
Yep.
Like dripping down Christopher Lee's
That
face.
bright neon
Yeah.
in your face.
You know, and all of the, you know, the Italian, in all of the Italian giallo films, like it I think it helps you to consume and to digest how horrific
Yeah.
these scenes are, because if they looked real, it would be rough.
Yeah.
It would be really rough.
But it's just massive blood spurts, bright
Yeah.
lids. Oh, it's over the top. And it's,
Exactly. What was your favorite kill?
oh God, what were there? Some were like super. My least favorite is probably the one with the taxi, because that was just the guy just got run over.
Yeah.
I would have to say the whole scene with the guy he met in the restaurant, in the
Ooh.
kitchen, because not only do you have like you see like sprays of blood on the wall, that bright spraying, but when there's the knocking on the door and there's that beautiful camera angle that's high up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of amazing cinematography in this film.
The scene in the kitchen it's amazing.
And she like slips on the floor and has to
Yeah.
get up.
Yeah, like it's very real.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy's ex-girlfriend
Yeah.
who is still hung up on him and knows that he's seeing someone else.
Yep.
And yeah, she shows up to the apartment and is like, if you don't open up, I'm going to break the door down.
Yep.
And Yanka obviously can't have this attention. So, and of course, this guy has like fallen very unhealthily in love with her.
Yes.
Because like they've slept together like once,
And he's like,
maybe twice.
Let's
and,
marry.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna say something to you I've never said to anyone before. Like, will you marry me? And it's like, God damn.
This is not a 1942 film.
Yeah.
My guy.
And how did she kill him? It was
Scissors.
with the scissors. That's
Stabs
right.
him in the stomach, and he's in this corner in between the wall and the refrigerator.
Yeah. And what's really neat is that fridge door
Opens.
it can't keep closed.
Yeah.
Like they keep, like whenever they're in the kitchen before,
Mm-hmm.
the door obviously is very loose.
Yeah.
And you see him have to like keep closing it.
Yeah.
And so we have the buildup to then have the ex-girlfriend come in after Yanka has killed him.
And she busts the light to keep it dark.
And when she steps into the kitchen, the fridge opens up and the light shows her the blood splatter. And it's just really cool. Like, that's really cool.
Well, Yanka's like getting all of her clothes and just yeeting out of there. And like the amount of times she's just gotten away with almost like murder in broad daylight.
Yeah.
And like spends the latter half of the film just covered in blood and no one bats an eye or says anything is wild.
Yeah. I'm really glad. I guess like if this were almost any other movie, I'm sure there would have been a big deal made of, I don't know, police looking for her or like
No.
trying to find.
Scot-free every time.
We don't see a single fucking cop.
It's crazy.
Like, and I appreciate that because that's not the point.
Yeah.
Like we're not.
That would just like, it would distract. It would detract from the main plot, which is Yanka and her baby.
Yeah, she's got to feed this child, and
it's almost like a breath of fresh air to not have to like deal with a cop in a horror movie, because it just wastes time. The cop always ends up getting like killed or something.
So, case in point, I think one of the many influences on this is Possession with Sam Neill and Isabel Anjani that came out like almost a decade prior to this.
1980?
Yeah. It came out exactly a decade prior. And there's this weird entity thing that is possessing her that comes out and is like having sex with her, and it's weird. It's I don't know. It is extremely over the top. Like Sam Neill, it is not very good in this.
It's one of his earlier roles.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like really, really over the top, but not in the way that Baby Blood is. But the apartment that that a lot of Possession takes place in, where like this creature is living, looks exactly like the apartment that she's at in the beginning.
That's squalor.
Yeah. It's the same, like there's practically a bed and nothing else in the room. And then the kind of shape of the organisms are a little similar. And there's also a scene where she kind of like, where Yanka has a moment that reminded me a lot of Possession. Like there's anyway, it's there were a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Not just with Possession. I mean, obviously Rosemary's Baby again. The relationship between her and the abusive ringleader is straight out of La Strada. There's the stuff in the beginning, opening in Central Africa, reminded me a lot of the second Exorcist.
Oh,
with like all of the plague,
the locusts,
and all that, and just like the idea of this demon spirit,
this ancient evil,
But what was I gonna say?
The kitchen scene.
Yeah. The cop thing.
Oh, the cop thing. Yeah.
That's another reason why I brought up Possession, is because people go missing, and she's, if I remember correctly, like she killed a couple of people, and there's a detective who's like following and is like meddling with this, and it just like, it's a weird,
kind of waste time.
Yeah,
doesn't really probably end up anywhere.
I don't think so. I'm not a big fan of the movie by any means. I actually really did not like it. But it has a very good reputation. Just not with me. But that was it. Because it's like you can do the cop in horror right if the movie is kind of,
if it
built.
Needs it.
Yeah, if it's like
they're the pad time. Probably the bad time.
Or if it is structured or designed in a way that you can have that aspect of the story and it adds to it.
Kind of like a B plot?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, with The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Like, that is a perfect example of you have a detective story. Like the film is a detective story, essentially.
Yeah.
But what's happening is not focused on the detective. But then when you don't have one with this, it's so freeing. Like,
Because it opens up just the plot itself and nothing
Yeah.
else. There's no filler.
no,
Everything like uses up every minute precisely as it needs to.
absolutely does. I mean, the way that it can dedicate itself to being about the relationship between these two, and then also how she's going about murdering
Yeah.
all of these guys, like, that's what matters. and it's because of that that again, like, we're seeing how this relationship between a mother and child is very much critiquing the idea of motherhood in general. Like, again, like, she can't do whatever she wants.
She's bound to it.
Yeah.
I feel like she works jobs, but that's more of necessity to have some place to live. I don't think she really has she doesn't have a life. It's all
No.
revolved around the entity
Exactly.
and feeding it and talking to it.
Yeah. Like, her life is entirely the baby.
Yeah.
Like, she, not to beat a dead horse or whatever, but like, because men don't have to worry about physically being pregnant,
Right.
you can look at at the history of civilization as men being able to do whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a possibility. Like, it's not a thing that they have to worry about.
Yeah.
Like, you can do so much if you don't have to worry about caring for this thing that's growing inside you.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, like, whatever, like, you are not hindered. And so because of that, men are allowed the freedom to have purpose that exists outside of themselves.
Yeah. Like they can go out, drink, smoke, go out with friends.
Yeah. I mean, or start a new industry, like,
Yeah.
create a piece of art, like, go anywhere, do anything. But like, those are freedoms that, as soon as a woman becomes pregnant, are suddenly, like, even if they're not taken away entirely,
Right.
because obviously pregnant women do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But
it starts that thing of people saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that.
yeah,
You're pregnant. Or like, you should take it easy
yeah,
because of the baby,
Exactly.
not because of her."
of you, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I think of the film is like, you, like, suddenly, like, it's like, if you want to have like that extra glass of wine because you're enjoying it,
Yep.
you have to think about
The baby.
the baby. That's like, no father, no pending father has ever had to worry about, well, I can't eat this because that'll really mess with the kid. No, it's like, there's no, I mean, even just the ability to physically leave.
Anywhere.
Yeah. And like, to leave even the mother behind. Like, it's I was gonna say the bond is not the same, but I mean, in a lot of ways it isn't. Like, I mean, if we want to look at lions, right? Because there are lions in the movie, so let's use lions.
Sure.
Male lions couldn't give two shits about cubs when they're born. In fact, if they're hungry enough and there's not food around,
Yeah.
they'll eat them. They'll eat the kid because they don't care. Because they didn't have to make it.
Right.
Like, they didn't go through the actual literal labor
Yeah.
of making this child. And so because of that, what does it really matter? Like, it's not an extension of you in the way that a child is the extension of a mother.
After like the deed's done,
Yeah.
the husband, man, whatever, is completely detached. I mean, no, it's not like he's not involved in helping make sure the like girlfriend, wife is like comfortable and everything, but like in all regards, it's like detached from like the making of this
Yeah.
child.
I mean, the physical dimension and how that expands to, again, the oppression of women in as a labor force,
Right.
as individuals who want to do whatever they want to do. Like it's a hurdle.
The moment that the conception happens and the first molecule is known about, like the woman no longer exists. It's just now the baby. The woman has been replaced entirely. Who she was, her identity, everything that was about her moments before is now completely gone, and now there's just the baby, which is a maddening thing to think about.
Yeah. To the extent that in a complicated pregnancy or a birth or a delivery gone wrong or something, that I would imagine that the mother is like probably more likely to suffer fatal or near fatal injury from just giving birth
Right.
to this thing that if you were to look at the relationship on a piece of paper, you would be like, this is a parasite. And
this thing could kill you.
yeah. And up until like medical advances in the 20th century, I don't even know what the
Mortality rate was.
yes, thank you, mortality rate of women because of giving birth was.
Probably low.
Like, wait, before
Isn't mortality rate like
that they
deaths or no?
yeah, deaths.
Yeah. It was probably high.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah.
what I meant, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. That like not only was infant mortality high, but just
Mother mortality.
yeah,
Woman
exactly.
mortality.
And so to have, I mean, just look at the way that baby blood puts that this entity puts Yanka into all of these situations that she doesn't want to be in because she has to take care of it.
Yep.
Like she has to work. Like we don't know what she wanted to do at the circus. Like we don't know why she was there.
She probably didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah. But it's like you said, like her personality, like her sense of self, as soon as she
Completely taken
is
away.
pregnant, it's like it's inseparable. So I was thinking about this pretty much like right after it ended, of like how grateful I am that things like this exist, and that this is one of the reasons why horror as a genre is so fruitful, and that why doing this show is such a wonderful thing. It gives us the opportunity to take things that if you were to show like just the trailer, just the trailer that we saw, and to tell someone like, this is actually a very critical statement on motherhood as an institution, but especially in the late 1980s in France or anywhere. But it's also about this weird entity that is as old as the planet, that is parasitically feeding off of this young woman and is making her kill men to drink their blood. And you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, Who's the French director that did RoboCop? What's his name?
Oh, Paul Verhoeven?
Yeah.
Oh, he's Dutch.
He's Dutch. Oh,
Yeah.
they're similar.
Yeah.
Well, it's that same thing of like, here's a satire on like corporate America and like society, but also like here's a RoboCop man.
Yeah.
Robot man who's a cop.
Yeah.
Like what the
He was a cop that got blown up,
Yeah.
or who got shot up, and is now. Yeah, no, exactly. Of like, you are able to take this very pulpy action sci-fi story and turn it into
a morality tale.
Yeah, and a very scathing critique of what, isn't it in Detroit? Yeah, of like Detroit industry.
Yeah,
and also Detroit's police force.
And how
corrupt
both have failed.
Yeah, the decline of both.
Yeah.
The decline of Detroit as a city, and it's RoboCop man. Like, but yeah, it's like that, because like there's a whole other thing that I don't know if you want to go into it. It's a lot, like historically, but it's all about France's colonial history.
Oh, I'm sure. Gee, that's centuries.
But yeah, well, I would be focusing on like 1 century.
Okay.
Yeah. Just well, here I guess I give you do like a Spark Notes.
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay. So all of this really is because of the opening in Central Africa,
right? Where it's long been theorized that that's where civilization kind of began, and
yeah,
I
think what is the name of the? It's in either Ethiopia or Kenya that there's like a ridge that anthropologists were like, we're pretty sure this is where it happened.
Yeah. And just everything else spread out from that.
Yeah.
So like, sorry for like white supremacists, but we're like descendant from like Africa.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
But that's where like, that's the cradle of civilization. That's kind of where it all began, is in Africa.
And that's where the present in the film also begins.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't name a specific country, but the Central African Republic, one of 20 territories or states that France had colonized in Africa.
Probably around the 1800s, late 1800s.
So after the Berlin Conference of 1884, see, I told you we were going to, after all of this is because of the leopard scene.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very, like, I don't think it's an accident or anyway. After the Berlin Conference of 1884, all of the major European powers, literally, this isn't even a joke or an exaggeration, they took a map of Africa
and split it up,
and they partitioned it.
Yep. That's mine.
Yeah. And the only country that claimed more than France was Great Britain.
Of course.
And it was only by like 1 or 2 more. So like practically, I want to say like close to 90% of the continent was controlled by Great Britain or France. Yeah. So,
and the thing that you all need to realize is like before that colonization happened, like Africa was like a prospering culture.
I mean, it's like hundreds of.
I know.
But
like people are talking about like the bad state that Africa's in.
It's
because of this.
Yeah, it's because of colonialism.
Before this, like they were prospering very well.
Yeah, I mean you have kingdoms and hundreds of different ethnicities throughout the entire continent. I mean, it's
There was that's I don't know if it was the 1700s or before. There was I forget the Emperor King's name, but he was the richest man in the world, and what he did for like a year was take a pilgrimage with all of his wealth and help whoever came across his path. And that all happened before the white race, the white men came in and just completely butchered it.
That was in Mali.
Yeah, I think so. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Was it Suleiman?
It may have been
Suleiman the Great?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, yeah, I that's what's coming to mind.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like the empire in Mali, like for a very long time, was like one of the wealthiest empires in human history.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, like you have hundreds of communities. You have, I mean, for a continent where there are currently 54 nations that are not politically drawn in the way that would, I guess, fully represent, or not represent, but like that would reflect where people actually were. Because in this partition, I mean, these Europeans, like they didn't give a shit of like, you know, what land is important to you, what, you know, where do you actually live?
Yeah, they just carved it up like a turkey.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the, like this happens in 1884, almost 100 years later, you have genocide in Rwanda.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
Because you have two people who were boxed in together who were not living side by side.
Right.
You know, but because Rwanda geopolitically was carved a certain way, you end up getting one of the worst genocides in human history. And so France, especially in like Senegal and Algeria, have this massive presence. Like these are like, I think like little France or like other France is what is like how they're thought of.
Yeah. Because
there are like that many French, like mainland French living there. And so all of this this imperial activity is in direct response to, within 2 years, in the early 1800s, France loses Haiti, which was the most, the most valuable colony. Haiti became the first country to start as a slave revolt.
Yep.
And the year before that, France had to sell the Louisiana Territory to us. So, like, they've lost so much land and so much money.
This is like right when, almost right at the cusp of the Napoleonic Empire just crumbling.
Yeah. I mean, these are like the last legs of it. And France abolishes slavery, I think, in 1848. And so the late 1800s, you have a country that was, you know, practically right there with Great Britain. And now they're like, what do we do? You know, and
what do we go from here?
Yeah. And the answer was going to Southeast Asia and to Africa and just conquering as much as possible. I mean, this is the same time that they're going into Africa that the French go into Southeast Asia and end up colonizing what would become Indochina. That would end up becoming Vietnam.
Yep.
And we all know how that went. And so
It's always the French.
they were there,
Yeah.
and then shit went down. And like after, I mean, the first Indochina War is in the 50s, and then by the time they pull out and we go in,
Yep, in the Vietnam War. Yep.
yeah, that all of this is because of colonialism. Like there's no argument about that.
It shaped human history. It also probably like forever altered and destroyed human history because the ripples are still being felt.
Yes.
In small astronomical ways. But like you said, the fucking Vietnam War, which completely
altered American history.
Yes, and altered just the way of looking at things and how our culture went, and like it all it kept spiraling and spiraling and spiraling.
Yeah, if the French aren't in Southeast Asia, conquering over the course of about 30 years what is now Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, who knows what would have happened during the 60s and 70s.
Right.
In terms of our perception to the rest, how the rest of the world perceives us, our relations with the USSR, our relationship with our own military, and also youth culture.
Yeah.
Like so many things, all because 100 years ago, at this point, a country took over and wanted to make money. And I'm saying all of that because you have, in the beginning of this film, you have a French circus going into Central Africa
and taking
animals so that they can be exploited and caged for profit.
Yep.
Now, I know that there are a lot of connections that I've made over the year that I'm sure many people would say, like, that's a little pushing it. I defy anyone to tell me that this image, this symbolism, is not charged with over 100 years of French imperial history, of taking this majestic animal and shipping it back to where it shouldn't be,
where it can be underfed,
caged, abused, and exploited. And what happens because of that? It explodes in their faces.
Yep.
And then the product of that, the consequences of that, end up destroying countless lives throughout the course of this movie.
And here's my thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are people in Africa. People live in Africa.
Yeah.
For many, many centuries.
Yeah.
What the fuck took the entity so long to do this? It had ample opportunity. It had ample time to be like, you, just a random woman out in the African plains. Anyone. It could have.
Well, I don't think that there's any way that I can come up with a concrete answer to that, but I will say that my immediate thought is, in the same way that evolution as a biological process is somewhat random, that just one day something changes, something happens in the most perfect way possible that creates this brand new thing, that maybe it took all of that time for this entity
to come to the realization of like, I need to give birth by a human.
Because the entity also tells Yonka that in 5 million years...
No. 5 billion.
5 billion years, that's right, thank you. In 5 billion years, others like him will have control of the planet.
I thought it was this... it just said just him will evolve beyond greater than humans and will replace them. And all I'm thinking like, ooh, buddy, 5 billion years from now, we're not going to be around.
Yeah.
There's not going to be anything left.
Either way,
like 5 billion years, we don't really have much to worry about.
Yeah.
It's going to take a minute.
That's also because, I mean, we have no idea what this entity really is.
Yeah.
So if you figure the Earth is a little over 4 billion years old.
Uh-huh.
So maybe it's halfway through maturing.
Oh, God.
At the point where it enters into Yonka and starts this whole process.
But my thing is like, yeah, it has a consciousness and an intelligent mind. Like 5 billion years, there's not really going to be anything to conquer. There's not going to be any really intelligent life left. Just kind of animals and not even ruins, because that's all going to be turned to dust in 5 billion years. The planet may not even exist in 5 billion years.
Yeah.
So it makes the whole process of the film kind of mute and redundant, given like at the end of the day, none of it will matter because there won't be anything left.
That says something. That all of this effort, all of this death, all of this murder, all of this energy expended in order to
evolve,
in order to conquer, isn't worth anything.
No.
Because at the end, it's not going to matter. So, I mean, I feel like...
Or maybe it's just like, that's what it thinks because it took that long to get here.
Yeah.
But like...
Yeah, we don't know what its conception of time is.
Because, jumping ahead a bit, she has the baby in an ambulance. What happened before? She was like, oh yeah, she saw a blood bank, a mobile blood bank to drink blood. And also I was thinking like, you could have just gotten a job at like, as like a janitor at a blood bank. You would have been fine. You wouldn't have to have killed anyone.
Yeah.
I guess he wasn't thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, no.
So she steals a blood bank to drink blood. And she's like driving to the ocean so the baby can go to the ocean. There's a guy who's still left there and like turns the thing on its side and like wrecks it. Then you get the two most vulgar ambulance drivers I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Who just hate each other.
Yeah. Yeah, one calling the other a dickhead the entire time.
So Yonka's dead. Then you have like this really beautiful shot of like the inside of her body, almost like a Fantastic Voyages type thing, where you just see like the insides and all the synapses and like tendons and stuff. It's cool. And the baby starts to heart again. She survives and crashes the ambulance because he's got so good at killing and just gives. No. This is my favorite kill of the film. She takes the anesthetic and puts it to one of the ambulance, the guy in the cabbie, and cranks it up. And his like veins start puffing up and he just fucking explodes.
Yeah.
That probably doesn't happen in real life, but it's still really cool.
Yeah.
So she's just covered in like viscera and entrails, giving birth to this really pretty like blonde haired kid.
So I somehow completely lost sight of the fact that one of the greatest tricks that this movie plays is that you keep wondering, what the fuck is this child going to look like?
Yep.
And it is a regular, normal baby.
Just a baby.
It is a normal baby. And you're like, wait.
That's it? Okay.
And then
Okay, so like this guy is going to check on this guy. Like stops right besides the bloody ambulance. Goes to check on the map to be like, where am I? Right when he gets back in the truck, realizes he's parked next to a bloody ambulance. I don't know what took him so long. Yonka takes the vehicle as he wants to do because he wants the baby. She's, I don't know, finding food for herself, finding food for the baby. Stops at a gas station. Apparently the guy who had the truck before did a terrible job at taking care of it because it's smoking up a storm. So she's leaving the baby in the place, in the truck while it's burning, while she's finding food or something at the gas station. No! She needed a mechanic to fix it. So there's like this bus.
And the mechanic's just on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to help you.
Yeah, there's this bus that stops, and there's this hitchhiker that we've seen a few times throughout the film. Well, in the later bits of the film, needing a ride. See, Yonka kept passing him, wouldn't give him a ride. Sees that the thing is smoking and sees there's a baby inside of it. Next thing we see something dragging the guy into like the open window of like the passenger seat, just like, oh, Bianca realizes like, no, stop. Yanks it out. The guy's like chest is ripped open. And what happens next is like, it's almost like a snake skin of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, the baby skin is terrifying.
And she follows like a blood trail and slime trail to the bus, which probably starts my least favorite scene in the whole film that I actively despise, and it makes me ick. Because he almost gets, I didn't want to say it, it's terrible. He almost gets gang banged by are they like a sports team?
Yeah, they are, I want to say they're either soccer players or baseball players.
Yeah.
But yeah, like as soon as one of them wakes up, yeah, and the bus driver's terrible.
Yeah,
and
drinking.
Yeah,
it's like I told her not to wake him up. I'm like, dude, and I'm just thinking, are these Neanderthals, these cavemen? Like, when was the last? Is it like been 10 years since they've seen a woman? They're like, unga bunga.
Yeah, yeah, and meanwhile, she's looking for the baby.
Yeah,
and the baby finds the bus driver first,
but it's not a baby anymore.
It's now
it's a squid baby.
Yeah, it's something.
I think of it as like what you see the inside of the Dalek casing is in Doctor Who, just a squid thing with eyes. It looks like that, just more transparent. It just starts attaching itself. I don't know what it's doing to the bus.
Well, it's putting tentacles down his throat.
I don't know if it's feeding off of him.
Yeah.
You see like his like face starting to split apart.
Yeah, it was like ripping him open.
Yeah, like, oh, Jesus. And you're just like, she's just trying to drive the bus while the squid baby's feeding on the guy. Then the bus explodes. He's like, I'm ending this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have an ambiguous ending, which is good old slime trail that the film likes to do into the ocean. Like, oh, it survived? It made it? Okay. See you in 5 billion years.
Yeah.
That's your lot. That's how the film ends.
Yeah. That's Baby Blood.
Now, there is a sequel. It came out in 2008. Same actress.
18 years later.
It's called Lady Blood. Now, I don't know how you can possibly ever track this down. You probably can't. I don't even think there's an English dub for it. But there's a trailer. And there's a little synopsis, like on IMDb or somewhere on the internet. And whoo boy. This film sounds fucking terrible. So it's 18 years later. Yonka's a cop now. He's the cop. He's solving these string of murders. And apparently, the baby's back. And is this possessing bodies and killing for no reason? So he has to like confront it. It's weird. It's like completely left field. And I'm like, and I saw the trailer. The trailer looks goddamn awful. And I'm just thinking like, first of all, she survived?
Yeah.
That bus exploded.
Yeah.
But also like, the baby's not going to evolve anymore? Just gonna kill people? for reasons.
I guess. I mean, I don't know what else it could possibly do.
Just sit
that
in
long?
the bottom of the ocean and evolve like it was going to see you in 5 billion years. But that's the thing I'm thinking about. Why I got to the ending was like that thing evolved into a squid baby. And we were talking about its perception of time being fucked up. It could have just been like evolving like with each second, you know? Like who knows what it would have turned into if it completely consumed that bus driver.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not going to be 5 billion years. Maybe it's going to be like in a week. It's going to just completely eradicate civilization, like the Thing. But I guess that's what it's doing in the sequel, just one body at a time, just possessing people. Like, I feel like you had a better, well-off plan as the squid baby. But I don't know. I don't know how a 4 billion-year-old conscious, intelligent entity, creature, ooze thing works.
Nobody does. Nobody except its mother.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish that there were more about this. I wish that...
Yeah, you can't... This is like... It's like an enigma.
Yeah.
A cinema enigma.
Unless... Now, for anyone who knows French, I think there's like one interview.
Okay.
Un interview. Like...
You can Google Translate it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
The only other bit of information I found out about the film was the English dub. And I don't know who's...
Yeah.
There's only one person that I know who's in it, because the Wikipedia article on this film states it as so. It's that the baby, the entity, in the English dub is voiced by none other than Gary Oldman. And I don't think it would work. I love Gary Oldman. We both love Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have worked.
I can't imagine Gary Oldman doing a voice that's anything close to what the director gives us.
Yeah. And even that's, like we said, is modulated in such a way to make it feel like this, almost like a child, like an innocent creature, just, you know, asking questions like a child does. I can't imagine Gary Oldman's voice.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It would sound cool and sinister.
Yeah.
But I think it would completely fuck up the vibe.
Yeah, because like, I mean, there's just something innocent.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, Mama, why won't you feed me what I need?
Why do you look at that man like that? I don't understand.
Do you think that all men suffer because they know that they will die? And that is why animals are happy.
Oh, this baby just, I know what this baby is. It's just the primordial Werner Herzog. Why do we feel pain of the suffering of man when animals are much dumber and are more content with their existence? This is Werner. As a child, even though it's like 1990s, probably in his 50s at this point. Or 40s, yeah.
Just, yeah, that's Baby Blood.
That's Baby Blood. This is very much like our niche films. You just have to experience it.
Yeah.
Because it's always like the niche films that are kind of like the diamonds in the rough. It's generally a great film.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It's just wacky, kind of over the top. It's French as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's just a pervert.
Yeah, and Yanka is just like absolutely naked, probably like 60% of the movie.
I feel bad for her.
I mean, yeah.
Also covered in blood. Oh,
yeah, she's covered. Yeah, the other like 40% of the time she's just covered in blood.
Like naked and covered in blood.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking like late night shoots. Oh, that's probably just very uncomfortable and sticky.
Yeah, also cold.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so get a library card, support your local libraries, and
all you need is a library card.
Canopy.
Yeah, it's good. They got a lot of niche stuff in there.
Yeah, you get 12 free movies a year. 12 free movies a month, excuse me.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's great.
And watch it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure when you do, you go to closed captionings and turn it on.
Yeah, it's not
automatically subtitled. But it is when you put on the closed captioning.
Yeah.
And it's a decent sub.
And join us in just a couple of days
Yes.
after you listen to this for our Halloween 2000 special on the Devil's Rejects.
Yep, we've decided, I think we mentioned it before, like all of our specials until we get to all of it, just the whole Rob Zombie filmography. Because
Why not?
And we'll think of something else when we go through all those. There's like 7 films
I think there's more than
that
that.
he's done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're going to have to watch Slaughterhouse. Grindhouse. Which one is it? Oh, no, he just did a trailer for it.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Sorry, I was. Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
On this week's episode. Je suis Mathieu.
First, I will eat your legs, and then I will eat your arms, and then I will eat your face. It will be this armless, legless, faceless thing rolling down the street like a turd in the wind.
That was really good.
Thank you.
All right. Au revoir.
Bonjour and goodbye.